Welcome to the Great Distraction.
How's it going, everyone? This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is marriage, contract, or constitution. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-hosts Joe,
What's that?
Thomas,
Aloha.
and Glenn.
Hey.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and a random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. Marriage in today's society, in this modern day and age. There's a lot of stuff to talk about here, and right off the bat, we're gonna. For those of you that are married out there, just know right up front, this is not an anti-marriage or marriage as a constitution bashing episode. We
got couches for you guys in rough times. That's all we're saying.
So for all the guys who are worried about they got to hide this episode from their wives, no, don't even worry about it, dude. We're not going to take it that route. However, I did want to start it off with, as a cumulative list we were discussing here, we wanted to open it up with, why do people get married in today's society? In today, a lot of the old school reasons why aren't necessarily pertinent. Some of them are, but some of them are not as pertinent as they used to be, and are not even valid anymore. So we kind of put together a list here, and we'll comment on as we go through, as we progress through this episode. But right off the bat, and one of the reasons we included Constitution in the title of this episode was people get married based on a societal constraint sometimes. I mean, they actually feel like society will not recognize them as a couple, or they perhaps will not accept them as a couple, or will not accept their commitment or their love or anything without the representation of the marriage, the wedding, the rings, and all this other stuff. So
I think also expectation plays quite a bit into that too.
Which that's what I was trying to encompass there with the constraint that society is putting on you, is that the expectation of you guys being together is that you go through this process and claim your love to the world, or your union to the world, right? So that was kind of one of the first ones I had thought of, it goes along with a couple other ones I had put here. The basically showing off to the world. You got the rings. It's it's the union showing off that, and also taking the other one off the market, right? This one's mine. Leave her alone, guys. Another one, big one that we hear about a lot, and we see it especially with famous people or very wealthy people, is finances, financial reasons. Whether be it financial binding, be it connecting multiple companies that are family owned together. There's a whole slew of different financial reasons why people will create a union between each other or between families that really, and for really no other reason other than to keep the wealth within and among themselves. And that's been going on long before this country came about. But
that's old.
That's
school
really
practice.
old school, but it is still pertinent today. I mean, that is still going on today. Another huge one, which I think is part of the main two reasons, is religion. Many people go through the ceremonial process and the binding legally and in all other forms, specifically to satisfy their particular religious belief system and to be recognized by their society within that religious system. So religion.
Recognized by the church.
Yeah, and within there, even if you're a part of a particular religion that doesn't have a church, I don't know if there are, but there might be.
Yeah,
and,
sure. Most people who are that religious are part of a church.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So whatever, to be recognized by your religious organization, whatever it be. Another big one, family. Some people will not, even if it's not a religious background, it's just you will not live together until you are married. So says father, and father pays bills, and father's still a prominent figure in your...
Dad's still paying your bills. You probably shouldn't be living.
Well, yeah,
anybody.
Maybe, however, we're going to get to child marriage in the U.S. as a huge problem, and we'll...
I thought we already ratified all
that.
We'll
talk about that.
1850 podcast. Or what's going on?
Another big one is citizenship. I mean, we've all heard of this.
I need
right?
a green card.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many people get married to try and get a citizenship to not necessarily to the U.S., but multiple countries, right?
yeah.
You're trying to get a citizenship to another country. That's a motivation. Mail order brides, it does still exist, and that's a huge motivation for many people to go through the process of getting married. Another one that's kind of odd, the kind of last one I'll bring up here, that not so many people maybe have thought of before, but I have witnessed it before with some friends or people I know rather. There are instances when two people are together, they love each other, they've been together, whatever. They're probably going down that path anyway, or maybe they're not. But it's somebody you really care about, and that person, one side or the other, does not have medical benefits, and they get injured, or they get sick, or they get cancer, or any number of bad things happens to them medically. You can get married to share medical benefits. If one side has it and the other one doesn't, and that side
Are you
needs it.
suggesting that to our listeners?
No, no, but I have known people who
It sounds like you're giving it a good vote.
I have known people who have done that. I mean, they were already dating. They were already.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've had friends that same thing. They're in college. One of them graduates, gets a job, and it's like, let's get married because I just got $80,000 a year job, full benefits.
Yep.
I'm totally.
I love you. I'm not leaving you, and
Yeah.
I think I can see us together for the next 5-10 years at least. Yeah, I mean, so there's that.
Long enough to get my kidney fixed.
Get a whole new grill put in, man, because I got some messed up teeth. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So I mean, that is another very serious reason that people may get married. I mean, that's some pretty heavy grounds.
Hey, I'm looking for a sugar mama right now.
Yeah.
With dental and visual insurance included.
The sugar daddy, sugar mama thing, actually, that's becoming more prevalent too. I mean, you have a whole slew of 70-year-old dudes or whatever who are, very, very well off, and find yourself a 22-year-old who, look, I'm about to die. Just please me for the next 10, 15 years. You can have all my money. I got nobody else to leave it to, and there you go.
Anna Nicole Smith.
I hear there's websites for that sort of thing too.
Yeah, there's also websites for the whole mail order bride thing too, and just there's a few documentaries floating around on those two on YouTube, and I think on Netflix too. If you guys are curious, that whole industry there's a lot of scams. So it's
way.
Yeah, it's not all
What?
goody gumdrops in that industry, unfortunately.
I don't think it ever had that identity.
Yeah, and it may never had. I mean, you'd have to go back to a few decades back.
Mail
to
order
see how
bride. Why, George? That sounds like a fine idea.
Get her out the Sears Roebuck catalog. Poor Sears, no more, man. Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. So breaking away from that, as we had kind of alluded to earlier, this whole child marriage problem in the U.S. is actually a huge problem. Now, I don't know how much. Go ahead.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I said when I was reading about it as I was doing research for this episode. I was like, wait a minute, child law? What the hell are you talking about? Then it dawned on me. I had heard of this, and in fact, some of my family members who come from older times went through this for various reasons. You can, just to give you an effectual overview, you can emancipate a minor by marrying them. So that means, yes, you can find a 14-year-old girl, marry her, emancipate her from her parents, and now she's yours. It gets worse. That's just the beginning. Okay, so let me. So basically, one party is under 18. That's the definition for it. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to say.
Ted Nugent did that in the 70s.
A lot. Well, here we go.
Several rockers actually did that.
He got a real problem with it too. I had heard
it's a real problem. In general.
Yes. So from 2000 to 2015, because that was the latest statistic I could find, 87% of child marriages involved underage girls. So you get an idea that this is mostly dudes getting really young girls, going after really young girls. Okay. To give you some really up-to-date status on the legality issues of this, because there are we'll give you some forefront. Most of the states in this country are looking to ban this, not make this an option. Case in point, this is an interesting one. On January 1st of 2019, next year, New Hampshire is enacting the minimum age 16 minimum to be emancipated to. So you can't marry anyone younger than 16, even if you're going the underage route, right? Now, add to that, the age of consent in many portions of this country, many states of this country, is all the way down to 16. 16, 17, and 18 is pretty much the rest for the age of consent. But there are still quite a few states that are only 16. In New Hampshire, prior to this, this goes into effect 2019. Prior to this, the minimum age that you could marry somebody to emancipate them or child marriage or whatever was 13 years old for girls and 14 years old for boys. That currently stands as we sit
In what
right
state?
now. New Hampshire. Yeah. Crazy, right?
I'm just shaking my head right now.
Yeah, you can't see Thomas over here
Can you
shaking
see
his
this, guys? Just shaking my head.
So that
This
is
is the
currently
sound of a shaking
that is
head.
currently what it is, and it sounds ridiculous, but it really is what this country was founded on. People were doing marrying minors.
Well, yeah, but people died when they were 32 of old age.
True,
So, I
but
mean,
when they
we're
were
also in a little
32-year-old, 36-year-olds marrying 13-year-olds, or probably younger.
Well, I'm sure they were back then.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of the stuff that this country was founded on, and in part, a lot of these countries that are having, or countries, a lot of these states that are having this issue are the Bible Belt Southern states.
No way.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, wow,
Shocking.
that's interesting.
Mind blowing.
And yeah, and East Coast because that's where that's where the country started, right?
My mind is blown.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. So most states do allow still legal emancipation at age 16 and 17. That's kind of where it hovers around with parental consent. So I think in California, it's, if I remember correctly from reading this stuff, it was 16 with parental consent as long as you're,
But
parents.
okay, yeah, because that whole the emancipation thing and the age, I don't know, because I'm going back to the legal age of consent thing. It just seems weird. It's a very, I don't know. I think it could be used as a gray area for somebody who wanted to take advantage of it for sure.
Absolutely, especially with the age of consent thing. Now, it's one thing, and here's where it really differs and why there's so much work trying to ban the ability to marry a minor versus the ability to change versus changing the age of consent. The reason the whole marriage thing has a stronger following to ban it or change those laws is because while a lot of these states will allow you to emancipate a minor, marry them, they will not allow a minor under the age of 18 to represent themselves or seek legal help or file a restraining order or seek legal action against somebody or criminal action against somebody until they're 18.
You see,
So
that,
you
that
get-
difference. That's where the problem is.
That's the huge problem. You get these mostly guys gets a 13, 14-year-old girl, convinces him to marry her. Now he's got her hooked away from her parents. Parents can't do anything. She's now the legal guardian of the guy who married her because he's emancipated her. And he can do whatever he wants for the most part
because she can't seek recourse.
She can't do anything until she's 18 because they will not let her file for divorce. They will not let her retain an attorney. They will not let her file a restraining order. Yeah. This isn't all states, but this is an issue with the interim that we're in, that a complication that's been created. And many of these girls are getting stuck like that.
I'd say there's still slavery in America.
Dude, if that isn't, that's human trafficking type. Well, it's
Oh
not
my
trafficking,
God.
but it's sexual slavery of
it's
some
sexual
sort.
I mean,
There's some sort of
yeah.
slavery there, yes. Slavery by marriage, and not in the joking way. It's a little,
Wow.
yeah. So that is a huge issue that is being dealt with in many states, and it's very like I showed you, New Hampshire. There's a bunch of other states too. It's not just New Hampshire. Even to this day, and some
Yeah.
of it hasn't even gone into effect yet.
Well, I think the marriage thing is going to be kind of weird, especially on the age thing, especially like in the Bible Belt areas, because, like if you live in, southern Indiana and you get pregnant at 17, you're probably going to get forced to get married
Yeah, they're going to force you into it anyway.
at 17 or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those lines too that make it kind of weird.
Definitely. So you have to get that blend of family, religion,
Yeah.
and
Everybody
now-
has to be 18 to do anything
Yeah.
legal from this point forward. Marriage, emancipation, and anything legal, you got to be 18 from now on. Let's just call it that.
You would think that would be it, but then now you're going to go to all those states where dudes
And there's
can...
there'd always be a problem with that.
Yeah, now you're going to go to all those states where legal congressmen can bang 16-year-olds, and they're damn happy about it. So,
I think they're already doing those things.
well, it's legal in a lot of states. So,
I know.
they are.
I'm sure they're going to other places specifically to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there you go on that too. All right, changing course a little bit. Let's talk about marriage percentage rates in the country, because that's kind of that and divorce rates are statistics that are thrown around quite a bit, and there's a lot of skewing for it. And with that data, a lot of misconceptions can be derived from it. So we're not going to try and make any conceptual analysis out of this data. I was just interested in kind of running through some facts that I had found from very large statistic gathering entities. PEW was one of them, and I can't remember what the other one starts with. A ST Sturgis, or I can't remember what it was. Anyway, you guys can Google it yourself if you're interested in seeing this kind of stuff. But from what I found was that between the 60s and the 80s, marriage rate, which is the percentage of the population that is married as couples, and we're not dividing this by same-sex marriages either. This is just marriage, period, for all these dates. It was as low as 40 to 50% in the 60s to the 80s. It, bounced back and forth, kind of varied, but somewhere around those lines, right? From starting from 2000, I realize that leaves a gap, but the statistics weren't that interesting during that time. But from 2000 to current time, it has hovered annually between 58 to 61%. That's a lot higher than some of the stuff I hear anyway has led to believe.
So do you think that's in a result of same-sex marriage?
One of the things I was trying to find correlation between that two, because I was thinking, well, during that time, didn't we make same-sex marriage federally legal, and as a result, weren't a whole bunch more people getting married, which therefore might have increased the percentage of people married in this country? I couldn't find anything that showed that. Either way, yes or no. So
okay.
I couldn't find any correlation with the stuff I was researching there through, and so I don't know. It seems to me logically that it would, but I don't know.
We don't have the data.
No, I could not find any data for that. Now, up until current date, like I said, hovering around 61%. I think that was 2017 was around 61%. Interesting an analysis that a lot of articles were talking about. That is expected to drop as we continue through. And the reason it is expected to drop is because overall, millennials do not seem to want to get married. And some of the reasons that they have coined for that, or not coined, but mentioned for that as a possibilities is a lot less unskilled men. Now, I didn't look into why they listed that as a reason. Do women find men with skills? Girls only like guys with good nunchucking skills. For freaking Napoleon Dynamite, right? Maybe the guy was right. If you're unskilled, yeah, you don't have good skills. They don't like you.
I don't know. I have noticed that this might just be my own jaded perception.
That's all any of this is our own jaded or our own opinions, right?
But our opinions are definitely jaded, though.
I have seen this younger generation, man. They're whiny. I can't get over it.
But how does that have to do with? Okay, so how do you apply that to marriage?
As far as I don't want to be next to somebody that's whining all day. I wouldn't marry them.
True, and people are a lot more picky too. The younger people seem to be a lot pickier. Anyway, I don't want
more entitlement.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with that. Another one is a lack of belief that marriages will last. That a marriage will last. People are being brought up thinking, well, why the hell get married? It doesn't seem to last.
Well, my parents got divorced.
See, case in point.
Well, I mean, I think any kid that grows up with parents that get divorced and they see the ugly sides and see things will have a different view of marriage as an adult versus someone who's like parents are still together and they went on family vacations. The 1%.
If it was a super happy little family, the American Dream, 2.5 kids, and the dog and the picket fence. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Let's see. And another reason that they had noted was a decrease in religious affiliation. I mean,
that's definitely got to be a big one.
Seriously. And I maybe it's just a strongly liberal California mentality, but it has seemed to me over the course of my life that religious involvement has definitely declined. And I think I see it in a lot of different forms, but most specifically, the amount that they seem to be pushing out to the media these days seems to be more than they had to in the past.
I've noticed that from my own generation.
Okay.
I have older family members that we're all involved in the church
from a different time period.
From a different period.
Yep.
And my cousins, my siblings, none of us carry through with that. We don't. I don't know. It's been portrayed to us in a way that makes it seem like you got to be pretty dumb if you believe this, because it doesn't make sense in a lot of cases. Yeah. And the contradictions have been pushed and rubbed into our face in our society that really close off the mind to religious exploration in this country, I feel.
Yeah, it's definitely getting a taboo around it, and specifically with as a reason to get married, it seems like less and less. That whole concept of, we can't be together until we're right before Jesus. You know, it's like that whole mentality is like, okay, less and less people are finding that to be a valid concern.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think also too in America that we have, in the last, I would say 20 to 30 years, we've had a big increase in the diversity of our people. There's been a lot of immigration to the United States from the world in the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, may not do it as many, but I know a lot of people who came here from other countries and stuff that kind of like wanted to wash away a lot of what they had been through or their, with religion and politics and things like that and just come to someplace new. And I think that's a thing that I see a lot more is people in America. I don't feel that necessarily like, anti-religion. I think it's just more so of like, I'm okay without that.
Yeah.
And so
increased free will,
increased free thinking, intellectual, movement forward. To me, I think in society, they don't necessarily need that, and it isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just they've thought, you know what, we've tried that, doesn't work that great. I know lots of people that live together forever and don't get married.
Yeah.
And I know people get married.
Cohabiting, I think they
cohabitation.
call it. Yeah.
But then, I know people have been together for a little while and get married, and then, 6 months later, I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason to it in general, but I see that a lot more people, I feel, probably won't find it as significant.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think part of this also comes back to our cultural perception of premarital sex.
Well, and I feel like that's a religious thing.
It is.
It is.
And it's dying.
It absolutely is a religious concept.
Yeah.
But
because haven't you seen Teen Mom?
What's that?
I have no idea what that is.
Show about teen moms. It's a reality thing.
Oh, I haven't seen it, no.
Okay.
Anything dumb that there's ever been, there's a show about it.
Oh, yes. It's a reality TV show.
That's exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead, Clem. Sorry.
Are
we done with that?
I forgot where I was going.
No worries.
Okay.
So I wanted
I
to...
screwed you up with the Teen Mom, didn't I?
I just totally derailed my...
should be a punk rock song. Teen Mom. Da-na-na-na-na-na, Teen Mom.
All right.
But... a lot of times, at least from a male perspective, they were trying to get in the girl's pants. So
that was the only way they could.
The only way they could was through marriage.
So a true story here. I worked in Indiana for many years. I worked at this music store that had a lot of the people who worked there were religious. It was in Indiana. I mean, most people are.
Yeah.
And there was this kid that reminded me of why I hate organized religion because it's just the way he talked and his view on things that he'd been taught to view from.
Yeah, just regurgitating what he'd been brainwashed
And he
with.
was so desperate to get laid, he was like 19, that he was like forcefully trying to find girls he could trick into marrying him.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what that breeds. That sort of thing breeds this mentality.
Yeah. Getting married too young, making a mistake, and that increases divorce rates.
They want to get laid. We can't have sex unless we're married.
Yep.
A lot of people throw away 5 years for that.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I can't even relate to that concept. That just seems insane to me. I mean, there's so many things that you need to learn about an individual before you choose to spend the rest of your life with them. And of course, sex has got to be super high on that list. And if y'all aren't compatible, it's going to cause problems.
Yeah, or even
blows my mind.
Yeah, even a long-term commitment, because I mean, pretty much everybody knows that marriage can end, right? It's always an option in everybody's mind, right? But even if you're going to like move in with somebody, hopefully you've thought, like you guys been dating for a year or two or whatever, like you've learned a lot about that person and you're ready to take that next step. Just like you're going into this, even if you're thinking, oh, we're only going to get married we'll be married for 10 years, 20 years, whatever. I mean, some people, there's this whole concept that we'll try and touch on before we end here of contractual marriages that seems to be coming about as an option, a new option. And it's basically a set term that you stay together and you guys are committed with each other. Anyway, so you're intrigued. We'll get into that.
Intrigued my mind.
Yeah. I don't want to get into it just yet because I want to go back to the same-sex marriages and religions portion back that we were touching on first. So I'll go back to we'll touch on that again later. But going back to the religion and the concept of the involvement of religion and how things change when same-sex marriages came about. One of the things I found interesting, because I knew a few LGBT people who got married, and Q, can't leave off the Q, who got married and who were religious, and their church establishments that they grew up going to wouldn't recognize a same-sex marriage, even if it was legal, whatever. So I found it really interesting to witness their solution to this, and many people's solution to this. They simply found new churches that had come about that recognize same-sex marriage. So it's like how convenient you have to have your religion to bless your union, this one that you've been growing up into and been going to your whole life or whatever won't accept you. So we just conveniently create a new one that will. And now all of a sudden, all these people who are in your same situation have a place to go.
Yeah, well,
awesome.
and I think too, coming from the Midwest, I think one thing about church and and I think for the older generation, it's really about community and having friends and stuff. A lot of older people I know in Indiana don't go to church because it's preachy. It's because I get to see Dave, I get to see Jill, whatever, it's a community thing. And I think that falls into that a little bit more, especially in the gay and lesbian community. I think it's awesome that they have found there's a lot of alternative style churches where people, I don't think they're necessarily so gaudy, but it's just a community of that feeling of being together and supporting each other or something. That's a religion to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of what we're starting to move towards.
Yeah, I hear about that a lot too, actually, as a justification for maintaining that community.
It is important. Community is important.
The destruction of communities in this country is a big time problem, and the whole universal income. Why can't I remember that? UBI, universal basic income. Is that what it's called?
I forget. I always get it.
I get that messed up. Anyway, that's a huge hot topic right now politically and for the next presidential candidacy. We're going to do an episode dedicated to it. But going along those lines, it kind of plays into that, into the fact that community mentality in this country is degrading and disintegrating and going away. That's one thing that I know some of the organized churches or organized religions are playing off of, is that this is the last stand of keeping people unified, even though it's not. There are other ways. We just haven't,
It's their last stand.
Yeah, exactly. As we break off, we become...
like the Alamo up in here.
As we break off and start finding ourselves and creating our own groups, we're a bit like cats. And herding cats is difficult. But eventually we'll come back together as new established communities when we have a greater understanding of each other within society, and we can establish new commonalities that don't necessarily go back to that foundation. But anyway, that is a topic for another discussion. Let's talk about divorces, because divorce rates and just divorce in general, and that whole ugliness is definitely, part and parcel with getting married. So, were you gonna say something?
My biggest reason not to.
Dude, and it is
Here.
There is no way, just in case any of you guys are thinking about, I have seen, two intelligent people who were very, very good heads on their shoulders and went into divorce with the right mentality and amicable solutions and no kids and not owning a home or owning a home, whatever, and still shit just got messy, dude.
They probably hired a lawyer, and that's why.
As soon as you get the lawyers, it's all down
because they got to make money,
and they need to divide up the
distress.
finances type stuff, And once you require legal documentation for something more than just the separation of the two, you involve the lawyers, and everything gets, it becomes they basically want you to hate each other, because the more you fight, the more you're gonna need them. And the more money they're going to make off of it. Yep. So, I mean, these guys are like vultures.
They're like
bad.
Real estate agents. I hate them all.
Yeah, real estate agents. Yeah, there's a lot of real estate agents out there, though, so be careful. Everybody turns to real estate.
If you're listening, you need to think about what you're doing a little better.
Well, they only do it when the real estate economy is good. Then everybody's... Because everybody's got their real job.
What are they next? Are they like greeters at TGI Fridays?
No. Everybody has their real job that they do regularly. When the economy's good, everybody becomes real estate agents on the side. True, yeah. And then when you start looking at buying a house, everybody you know is like... Why didn't you talk to me, Glenn? Didn't you know I did real estate on the side? I'm like, when are you going to meet me, dude? You can't even. You're at work 10 hours a day. When are you going to meet me? I'm convenient. I need somebody who's available now. Anyway, yeah.
Reminds me of Amway.
It is a kind of a pyramid scheme, dude. Because literally, what are you paying a real estate agent for? You can look at MLS listings on your own all day long on the internet. Zillow, yeah, whatever. You can get them right as soon as they become available in MLS. Very shortly after you can get to them. Anyway, so divorce rates. It took this took some interesting facts here. Sorry, I was getting confused in my own writing here. The problem of dealing with how to handle divorce started in the U.S., from what I could tell, in 1969, and actually in California, and finding a way to legally get, what do they call it? They call it an uncontested divorce. Prior to 1969, one party of the marriage had to commit one of a few options or actions in order to justify a marriage being annulled or allow a divorce. If this sounds like it's got some seriously sexist roots, but nevertheless.
Sexist and religious.
Yeah, both, exactly. So prior to the 1969, you had to commit adultery and be caught. Or you had to, I don't know, there was a number of other ones that I didn't write them down or whatever. But if you didn't have a justification for divorce, you were not going to be allowed to divorce. You were stuck with this person. I mean, that's freaking weird. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. And which breeds its own forms of questions. Why was it so important that these people stay together the rest of their lives? I mean, what do you care? Anyway, all the way to 2010, New York, so funny, kind of spread clear across the country from
it's
west
to coastal.
Yeah. New York was the last one to pass this approval for an uncontested divorce, and that was in 2010. That was like not that long ago. I mean, it's okay, 18 years ago, but still, that's in the modern society world, right? I mean, we had internet, well established. And so it took them, I don't know, what is that, 40 years, almost 40 years to get uncontested marriages a legal thing in this country. So it was hard to get divorced.
I don't like the way she chews her food.
I mean,
that's not a reason on the list, Dave.
Now, as long as both of you agrees to it, you can get divorced.
So if you don't like the way each other eats, you can just you know what? I'm tired of sitting here at breakfast listening to this crap. I'm done with you. That's how people get divorced in America. I'm telling you. Yeah.
And but what I thought was really interesting about that is we have so much talk for decades now about divorce rates increasing, and really I think what it more was the option for freedom of divorce spreading across the country over the last few decades, and it kind of scaring everybody into thinking, oh my gosh, everybody's getting divorced now. And like, well, no. Yeah, there's a lot of people getting divorced because it all of a sudden became an option, and but not necessarily. Once that settles down, it doesn't necessarily mean, as we can see from the data of the marriage percentage rates, it hasn't wavered it overall. I mean, it's maintained, for the past what would I say now, 20 years or so, almost 20 years. It's maintained in the around the 60 percentile. I mean, that's better than I thought it was.
That's way better than I thought it was.
Yeah. Now I did read that of that. Those people who are married, 50% of those marriages do, well, it's been ranging. 40 to 50% of those marriages do end in divorce, but then people get remarried. If you believe in marriage, and you did it once.
Try it 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, more than likely you're going to get remarried after your first one, second one, whatever, failed.
Yeah.
Another interesting fact is that baby boomers are still at a high 50% divorce rate. Whereas I guess those of us that are younger than the boomers are actually have a lower divorce rate.
Huh.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. Is I guess those that are getting married now are staying married, but then the percentage didn't change. So
you got to look at the length of the marriage at that point too, because you have people that have been married for a longer stretch of time. They've had more options for things to happen in their lives that cause them to want to separate or grow apart.
Yeah.
So.
And you have to speculate that are we having more divorces because or does it look like we're having more divorces because less or more people are married, or and then how does same-sex marriage play into those statistics? Are they lasting longer than opposite-sex marriages? I've never even heard that term. Heterosexual marriage. Okay, there you go. Are they lasting longer or have higher divorce rates? There's all, you have to be very careful with statistics, guys, and that's why we try and promote every episode. Go out and check out your own statistics. This is just the stuff I found, and it's very just to lead to interesting conversation, right? That's kind of
well. Also, 75% of statistics are made up.
Statistics for the incorrectness of statistics.
Right.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, I think too, there's still a lot of positive reasons for people to get married, and I would never bash it. I mean,
no,
having a really solid relationship with someone that you can invest in your future is an unbelievable thing.
One of the things I did find on same-sex marriages, one of the leading reason behind getting married from same-sex couples, from the polls that were given, was straight up love. That's it. We know it doesn't matter, or we don't care if it matters. Whatever. This is how we show our love. It's that's the union says that.
So that's a concept that has been pounded into somebody's head since childhood.
That's what I thought too.
I love you so much.
I'm going to do.
I'll hammer this nail through my hand.
Yeah, I'll sign this paper.
So I've recently had a family member with that's long-term significant other passed away. They were together over 20 years.
Okay.
Same sex or?
No, heterosexual.
Okay.
And they were never married. He passed away. She didn't get any of the benefits from.
Yeah, that's a downside to that thing. And people that are in that situation, I mean.
What about domestic partnership, though? Couldn't they have filed for that, or did they not? Or
what state was that?
California.
Okay.
The other issue I've heard, too, is like on their dying bed. You know, you can't get in because you're not a family member. I've heard that concern.
Right.
But I don't know if I would believe that because, I mean, if
dude, I would believe it.
Really?
I was just in Indiana for my mom having surgery, and there was like, it was weird. Like, if I wasn't immediate family, I wouldn't have been able to get in. Like,
was there a bunch of other family there?
No, but there was a couple other people that showed up and they had difficulty, and I was just like, "Wow, this is weird."
That's really weird.
But at the same time, they just don't want anybody to walk in. But
it has good reasoning. But what if the patient was like,
yeah.
"Yes, let that person in"? Are they going to fight with them?
Oh,
I mean, come on.
What if the patient's not responsive?
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Man, there's too many things to think about here.
And I thought, that's why I want to discuss it. And then I thought, can't they apply for domestic partnership? And
you don't have the same rights.
You don't have the same rights.
Nope.
Not as marriage, no.
What does domestic partnership get you then? I don't know.
I'm not sure on the specifics.
Okay.
I haven't looked it up,
worries.
but they are different.
It is different, huh? Well, isn't that what gay and lesbian people were doing before?
Prior to being allowed to marry.
And it wasn't giving them the same rights. Okay, wow. Interesting. Okay, I didn't know about that. So playing off of the divorce rates and or the divorce concept or whatever, let's go back to that contractual marriage thing we were talking about. I don't know if this actually exists anywhere yet as an option, or if it's just something that's being handled by individuals' attorneys that perhaps they write it into their prenubs or it's part of the prenuptial agreement, which, by the way, requires a legal representation by two separate attorneys on both parties. So if you want a prenub, I don't know if not everybody knows that, you have to hire two attorneys. So it's like $10,000 to hire to get a prenup because you need to retain one attorney for $4,000 to $5,000, and for the guy, and another attorney for $4,000 to $5,000 for the female or for the wife or the other person, because it can be said later in court if it gets to that your attorney wrote the prenuptials in your favor and screwed the other person. So you got to have two attorneys.
Wow.
Okay. I don't know if this contractual marriage thing exists only in a prenuptial form, or if it exists in some other legal entity, legalese written way. But the concept is kind of this: we're going to get married, and all things that come with marriage are same thing as any other normal marriage, except we're signing an agreement for a limited term marriage.
Does this term include what division of wealth or possessions?
This I do not know. Maybe it does. So all wealth accumulated gets split 50-50. If there's kids, we'll argue it out at the end. I don't know. But you get married for 15 years, and then it ends.
So you fulfilled your contract. You're free to go.
Mm-hmm. The marriage becomes nulled. Now, again, I don't know where this is in practice, but it is a concept I have read about multiple times floating around the net, not just research for this episode. I've been hearing about it for years. So I don't know who's practicing or how it's done, but it's an interesting idea, I guess. So for me personally, and I'll relate it to this, let's say you are of the mindset that you want to be married for whatever your reason is, family, religion, whatever, financial gain, or financial finances, or IRS tax purposes. You want to be married to the person that you love. But let's say you are of the type that is a serial monogamist. You like to be in long-term relationships, and then you like them to end, and you like to move on to the next long-term relationship. Because I don't know about you guys, but for me, one of the best things in the world is meeting somebody new and falling in love all over again and going through that whole experience and learning about them and just experiencing things together, even if it's the same things you've done before. Just, that whole concept of starting anew is a wonderful thing. It's new life, new love, new everything. So some people coin that term, serial monogamist, like the idea that you can have the marriage that you want, that means something to you, whatever it means to you, for a limited amount of time, and then you can move on and do it with somebody else all over again. You get to start anew.
I have a feeling that wouldn't hold up in court.
Which
I have
part?
a feeling one person could say, no, or just disagree.
What if it was agreed upon in a prenuptial with legal
It
backing?
seems like anything can be argued in court.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Any document,
absolutely. Absolutely.
anything. All these things can be fought.
Oh yeah, nothing's in
lost,
stone, especially not
nothing's in stone.
prenuptials. But what I couldn't figure out, because I didn't read how people were doing this, is how else would you establish that going into the thing? I mean, it would have to be a prenuptial. I don't know how else you would do that. I don't know.
That's
anyway,
crazy.
it's an interesting concept. Nonetheless,
It is interesting, that's for
it's an
sure.
interesting option if it actually exists as an option, and something something to consider if you really need that title, that paper, that all that stuff that goes with the physical marriage, that process.
Well,
be
another
with
thing.
somebody.
Well, what this reminds me of is, and for a lot of people, and it obviously varies in different states or whatever, but if you're married to someone and say they have a union job or something and they have a pension, the amount of time that you're married dictates whether you get and a percentage of what you get on their pension in the long term, even on Social Security.
The railroad was like that also with their retirement.
Yeah, the government's
States
like
gotta
that
be that
too.
way,
Yeah,
too.
government's like that too. But I think that those people who would be interested in a contractual marriage aren't thinking about handing off their pension to somebody. First of all, most 99.9% of people don't have pensions anymore anyway.
I know,
but nevertheless, the medical benefits, if you're vested in for that, I'm thinking most people most people who are interested in a contractual marriage or a limited term marriage are not worried about handing
It just
that.
to me, it sounds more like a career move or some sort of financial advance some way.
Well-
it's being used. It's being leveraged for something else.
What about this, though? What if you were very close with your family and your family was deeply religious and your family was deeply traditional, and the only way they would recognize, and it means something to you, this means something, pleasing them and being your union being recognized by them means a lot to you because they're your family, they mean a lot to you.
Absolutely.
What if this was a interim in the way we're progressing as a society, an interim solution to please this generation of your family and still make you happy so that you can, kind of.
You're like, grandma's going to be dead in 6 to 8 years.
There you go.
max.
Exactly.
If we get, let's just say 10 years, and then we're done.
Yeah.
I see
Grandma
where
will
you're
be
going.
passed. I can divorce.
I'm picking up what
I
you're
don't
putting
feel
down.
bad that I made grandma feel bad or my aunt and uncle or whatever. Then we can, break away, and maybe he or she has the same problem too with
Yeah.
her family members, I guess religion would probably be more difficult one to tie it to. But in the case of the family, that was the best example I could think of why you
Yeah.
might need to do this. Or you are of an older mindset where being married physically, that whole wearing the ring and all that stuff means something to you. That's how you were raised to
Traditional.
think. Yeah, it's a tradition that you've accepted, and but you don't necessarily want to do it forever. But you like the mentality, and you want to have a wedding, and you want to do all that.
It'd be way too useful for getting people over the border.
Wow,
Hey, I'll marry you for 5 years.
interesting.
And
11 days.
It'll only cost you.
It'll
like,
get stupid then. If you can put a time limit on
$100,000.
it, then who says what's the time limit?
Yeah.
Now,
or
would a
whatever.
would a non-U.S. citizen be eligible for legal? What's the term? To hire an attorney to write their part of the? Would that work?
I don't know.
That's an interesting concept. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I didn't
crazy.
think of that.
I mean, if you're trying to bring people over, or
Yeah,
get them
I get
established,
you. Oh yeah.
Bring,
I've been married 11 times this month.
right.
Yeah, really. What kind of terms can you
I know.
can
That's
you
what I mean.
denote
If,
for
if
that?
you
I mean,
if you can put up a term, this is a max. Well, then now you're saying that the term limit is open for negotiation. That's one thing I know about law. If you put in numbers or put in some sort of guideline, now that guideline is open for interpretation
wow,
and argument.
interesting.
5 years. Well, we want it to be 4.5 years.
6
Wouldn't
months.
be 4.5 hours. Whatever.
How long do you take to get undressed?
Right. 11 minutes. I want to be in and out of here in 11 minutes.
Oh, were you going to say something, Joe?
I'm pretty sure that would constitute fraud in the eyes of the American government if you're bringing people over the border doing that.
Sure. But,
Yeah.
I mean, that'd just be a way to.
But
The other thing too is what would happen if you had people were doing it for our IRS tax purposes, right? They're like,
Yeah, that'd
I'm
be
going to get
fraud,
married
yeah.
because this year I made a lot of money, and if I file jointly with this person for a year, and the
I
next
can
year
claim her 9 kids.
exactly, and then we can bail out of it, and okay, so
It opens up a loophole for
like
lots
I said,
of bad
maybe
legal.
Yeah, like I said, maybe it doesn't exist, but I had read that it's being practiced in some manner. Maybe it's just an agreement between the two people. Like, hey, honey, I really love you, and we're going to get married for 10 years, but we're in agreement that after 10 years, we're going to get divorced. Maybe it's just a verbal
Yeah.
contract. I don't know. And I know things can be written into prenubs that are literally outlandishly outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, people have tried to put in, like, if you gain more than 15 pounds over the next 10 years, we're getting a divorce.
We're out.
You know, that kind of stuff is silly because you can write anything you want in the prenuptial. Doesn't mean it's going to stand up in court.
That's what I'm saying. Everything's open for
Yeah.
negotiation.
So it could be just one of those kind of silly things that you know. I didn't look that far into it, but anyway, it's an interesting concept nevertheless, and who knows where you know it may become a societal norm later in you know, as time keeps progressing in this country. I mean, hey, we've got weirder things going on.
We definitely have weirder things going on.
That's not the not even as weird as it gets. One more thing I wanted to bring up too that we hadn't even talked about is because it's getting so popular right now, polyamorous relationships, polyamory, polygamy. Polygamy does still exist. However, interestingly enough, specifically in Utah in the LDS community, they just pretend it doesn't, but it's very much prevalent there. Why is it illegal across the whole country?
Why isn't it illegal?
Why is it illegal? It is illegal. Polygamy is illegal.
I
Why
would hope so.
do they care if we're married to more than one person? I couldn't really figure this one out for myself. If we think about the tax reasons, okay, so
Hey, man, share the wealth.
yeah,
I'm
really,
thinking
don't
it
take all
goes
the women.
back to religion.
It's built around religion.
It's got to be, and it goes back.
We're a Christian nation, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pay attention, boy.
And polygamy has been illegal since 1882. I found so this is
1882.
way old. But I don't understand why it hasn't been, and maybe it is still because of religious reasons. Those powers that still be won't allow it to be overturned. But I just couldn't figure out why the hell they'd care in a modern society.
I don't know. I wonder if it plays something into the lack of rights that women had at the time, and it was a way just to.
Oh, they were totally like hoarding them. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it was a total slavery type situation. But I mean, in today, that's not going to happen. So I mean, what if somebody? And the reason I kind of want to talk about this is because we have polyamorous relationships or polyamorous nature. Well, I don't know how you lifestyle. There you go. Is getting very, very popular, and with that, what if you had somebody who, if society is willing to become more accepting of, Glenn, you want to have multiple relationships with multiple people? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Why can't it also be, Glenn, you'd like to be married to multiple women and they all know about each other? They don't mind because they're probably married to other people too. But marriage, again, how you were raised and how you look at marriage means so much to these people that they all want to do it. Why the hell can't you do it?
Or would it bind them, every person involved in the marriage, into one group?
You're crossing legal boundaries. It's almost like state lines.
Right.
Group marriage, dude.
Group
Well, I
marriage.
mean, wouldn't it need to be? Otherwise, how
guess-
would you split? I mean, if one person was married to multiple other people that could also have other partners, right? Then you have.
So everybody. So the only thing.
So where would something go if everybody's property is connected? Because in
You're gonna
marriage,
have to ask Joseph Smith on that one.
Why couldn't it be broken up in percentages? For example, if a corporation owns, if there's 6 members in a multi-member LLC, for example, I don't want me to break it into that, but this is my example, and that corporation, that LLC purchases a warehouse or a shop to work out of, a retail location, right? That building is not owned by one person. It's owned by the multi-member, however they break up their percentages. You know, so why wouldn't
Because with a corporation, you can pretty easily break everything down into a financial value. With a relationship, you have things of personal value. You have sentimental values. You have other things that aren't
man. So if you-
quantifiable with a monetary
you had-
value, so you can't put a straight percentage on it.
So if you had 2 wives in particular that really loved this
Couch.
dinette set or this
Right.
couch, you'd have, well, you can take 2 cushions and you can take the other 2.
So
I see what you're
mean,
saying. Okay.
It's all based on religion. You're trying to introduce logic someplace where there's not. I mean, why wouldn't same-sex marriage be acceptable? It's 2 people who are in love agreeing to love each other for the rest of their lives. That seems like marriage to me, but yet there's a whole bunch of people in this country who get all up in arms and say, literally, marriage exists between a man and a woman. It's absurd
Yeah, one man, one woman.
and
like the
horribly outdated.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, even if you go back, it was like there were always married men back, even in extremely long time ago, that had multiple wives and things like that. So it's between a man and a woman, but it's okay for the man to be the dominator and have as many of subservient women as possible.
Oh, yeah, it's
Going
got
to talk about a lack of moral value here.
It's got extreme sexist roots.
Right.
So we're looking at a topic that has sexist roots and how it is remaining a part of our lives as our culture evolves, because we're branching away from that.
Yeah.
Women's rights.
Yeah, marriage has changed a lot
now.
based on civil rights actions and rights for like women and things like that. And so a lot of that, I think the foundation of marriage has changed. The placement of the partners and what they do in marriage has definitely changed in the industrial era.
Yep.
So it seems a little archaic.
Right. I know. I just think a lot more people, like I said, for me, and people that I know, and I have lots of friends who have kids together that aren't married.
Yeah, but that's getting more popular too.
Yeah, and to me, I'm like, because I still grew up in an era where that was a little bit frowned upon.
Yeah, in fact, that's what a bastard is, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's like they had a bad name for that. I mean, holy crap, that's horrible, dude.
But that makes total sense to religion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a shunning, right? It's a shaming thing, right?
Stoning.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad that I never hear that anymore. Like, oh, you have bastard children. Like, I've never heard that from anyone. I'm like, dude, I might have to punch somebody. I mean, like, you're no.
I can tell you some places where you'd hear that.
Yeah. Well, I've never been to those places, so for me, I have not been exposed to that mentality. And the religious people I know up here, I pretty much stay away from.
But I mean, to me, even when in that situation, there's a couple of my friends, I was like, they had kids, and I was like, hey, do you guys, just a serious question, do you guys get any flack from your parents or anything about you guys not being married?
What do they say?
And having kids?
You're talking. Wait, these are people who live in California?
No, people I know that just different people in different states, not anyone in particular. But most of them said that they really didn't have any, their parents didn't have any sort of issues with it at all. But there was a little bit of hesitation where it was like, well, they would probably prefer it.
Yeah. And I think that's where we are now in the progression of that mentality change, right?
But I don't think the kids that are being born now in that situation, I don't think they're going to say that in 40
probably
or 50
not,
because
we're going to be the adults at that time. We're not going to say that. So
we're part of the change. We're seeing that change.
Yeah, exactly. Very interesting.
It gives me hope for humanity.
That's right. We're still a long ways off, but yeah, we are. I think.
But can we at least coexist?
Yeah.
Can we at least do that?
Can we all just get along?
Yeah, can't we all just get along?
Man, oh man. So that's about all I had for the marriage stuff.
Let's just get along, people.
That's it. On that note, unless any of you guys else have any other points, nope. That's it. We'll wrap it up then. All right. Thank you for listening, everyone, and until next time. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.